Those of you who follow my channel know how hyped I was for Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. I had it above even Trails Through Daybreak on my most anticipated games of this year. Did it live up to that hype? 100 Heroes undoubtedly has many great and a few noticeably subpar areas that make for a good overall experience that falls just short of great. It is an amazing foundation to build on if Rabbit and Bear have interest in doing so, but for now, let's talk about the usually wonderful and occasionally frustrating Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is an RPG developed by Rabbit and Bear Studios and published by 505 Games. You may know it from its very successful Kickstarter announced as a project from the creators of the Suikoden series, a project so similar to the Suikoden games it has been called a spiritual successor. Since the Kickstarter in 2020, those of us who backed it have been eagerly awaiting its arrival. The original timeline got pushed back until we finally had an official release date of April 23rd, 2024. Before that release, a prequel spin-off game made by a different developer, Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, came out. I did review that game when it came out for those interested. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is available for Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PC, as well as being on the Xbox Game Pass for now. Upon release, the reviews and fan reception have been mostly positive. There have been many critiques of the game, even among those who have liked it. I'll get more into that when I talk about my critiques, but the audience generally seems to have landed on the positive side for the game as a whole. As for sales, specific figures are always a challenge to figure out, but 505 Games described Eiyuden's release as having a healthy performance and debuted at number 2 on Japanese physical sales chart just behind Stellar Blade. All this means that the planned sequel Rabbit and Bear talked about seems like it'll be a go, even with the untimely passing of creator and writer Yoshitaka Murayama, but I guess we'll just have to see. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes primarily follows 3 heroes, with the main one being Noah, a young man who, at the beginning of the story, has just joined the Eltisvice Watch. His first assignment is a joint assignment between Eltisvice and the Galdean Empire that puts him in contact with our second protagonist, Sane. Sane is a no-nonsense scion of a prominent family in the Empire, determined to earn his place and do his best for the Empire. The assignment is to recover a powerful primal rune lens from one of the rune barrows. Unfortunately, while their first meeting may have been friendly, the politics of the land behind the scenes are fraught and lead to conflict between the Empire and the League of Nations that Eltisvice is a part of. Noah assumes command of the League's disparate forces called the Alliance to push back against the Empire's incursion, while Sane has some choices to make about his role in the future of the conflict. While this is going on, our third protagonist, Marisa, a guardian who protects the rune barrows, is dealing with the ambitions of the Empire in a different way. Noah, Sane, and Marisa all want to protect their homes and keep the ambitious Dukes Aldrich from wreaking more havoc on the land and its people. Will they be able to stop the advance? And at what cost? I enjoyed the story overall. It was a fairly predictable one, but the charm came not in the twists and turns, but in the satisfaction of resolution. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes knows how to set up and execute a climactic moment in the story. You cannot help but get hyped in those moments, which is good because that is what people will remember most, I imagine. The other big strength of Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes' story is with the characters. There are a lot of characters in this game and they are all distinct, especially the ones involved in the main story. From the Eltisvice Watch to the Shiarchs of the Sand, from the Guardians to the leaders of the various nations of the League of Nations, you will meet a lot of characters, and each one is not just lively and interesting, but well integrated into the story, and it makes you want to recruit them, and for most of them, you can. The Suikoden series that Eiyuden Chronicle builds off of was also known for its intricate storytelling, weaving military strategy and political intrigue between nations into the narrative. Eiyuden Chronicle does attempt to do the same, but to mixed results, I would say. I don't think that mixed result came from the writing side of things though, because I enjoyed the political discussions we were privy to and the ways the major battles twisted and turned. However, apart from the obvious character differences between places, there wasn't as much of a sense of world building as I would have hoped in a game about nations clashing. That is the one area of the game I was hoping for more from than the game delivered. Others I've spoken with have also critiqued the slow pace of the storytelling, but as a Trails fan, that obviously never bothered me. This story is highly enjoyable, filled with fun characters and very high peaks both on and off the battlefield, which is why I recommend it in spite of predictable plot points and shallower world building than I was hoping for. I mentioned the characters before, so let's talk more about them. There are 120 characters to recruit in Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, each with a distinct role to play in your crew. A fair number of them you'll recruit automatically as you progress the story, but the rest you have to recruit in various other ways. Some are as easy as walking up to them and offering them a place in your camp, others require specific items or other characters to be recruited, and still more have a quest line to complete in order to recruit them. This is of course up to you on when/if you recruit the characters. However, for those who do not know, in order to get the golden ending you must recruit all the characters before a certain point in the story. No, I'm not bitter that I was one character away and therefore got the regular ending first and then had to redo 5 hours of gameplay to get the golden ending. What are you talking about? This is the point where I advise people to have several saves. What I was most impressed about with the characters was that they really did feel different. The writers and artists really did come up with 120 unique characters. I could very much see every single character among these 120 being someone's favorite because there is so much personality and love put into each one of them. It's a treat for the players. That doesn't mean all of them are going to be particularly useful gameplay-wise, but they are all memorable and play their role well, for however long or brief they may be with you. I could go on and on for the many characters I enjoyed interacting with during my playthrough, but I suspect this video will be long enough as it is. For combat, the battlefield is set up with a front line and back line for enemies and allies. There is a maximum of 3 allies or enemies on each of the front and back lines. Therefore, your party will almost always have 6 characters in it, and you can face up to 6 enemies at a time. The positioning does matter because it controls who can be attacked. Typically, you have to defeat the enemies in the front before you can take out the ones in the back. Among your allies, there are short-range attackers, medium-range attackers, and long-range attackers. Short range means they have to be in the front line to attack the enemies. These are typically the bulkier melee units. Medium-range attackers are flexible. You can put them in the front line or back line, and they'll still be able to attack. They are also typically melee, but with more speed or reach. Finally, as you may suspect, long-range attackers should be put in the back lines and can attack enemies regardless of where they are on the battlefield. These are your mages, archers, and other ranged ability attackers. Your options in battle include standard attacks, rune lens, which is skills and magic if your character can use them, item, defend, shield, dodge, taunt, whatever, and hero combos. Standard attacks, items, and defend are straightforward for those who have played RPGs before. The rune lens abilities require either SP or MP to use. SP is accumulated during battle and so should be used as soon as possible. MP is not recharged after use unless you use an item, so it should be used more sparingly. Well, unless you're flush with items and cash, of course. The rune lens abilities range from devastating attacks to party heals and all else in between. Hero combos come into play with certain characters with a special bond. They take SP to use and lead to flashy animations that play out as you pummel enemies. While the animations are fun, I did find that a good number of the hero combos weren't as useful as using regular attacks or the rune lens abilities. Some were great, but not as many as you would hope. I found the battle system overall fun, but because it was random encounters and it's a long game, one of the most helpful features for Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is the auto battle that you can select before each turn in battle. You can breeze through easier battles this way, although it is helpful to change some of the settings in the menus so that your party doesn't use up all your MP or items in the process. For the boss battles though, you're going to need to be on your game. I found the battles tough, but usually not too frustrating. There was at least one occasion where I was simply too low of a level to take on the challenge, so I had to get some more experience, but otherwise things were balanced well enough to avoid the need for grinding. Some boss battles have special gimmicks that alter how you take them on, which was a fun way to spice up the gameplay. I was surprised though that the gimmicks didn't feature as much in the mid and late game as they did in the early game. In my initial look, most bosses had them, but then there were fewer and fewer as the game went on. For some, this may be good news, but I enjoyed them, and so I found it surprising they went away from them almost entirely by the end of the game. One neat additional mechanic for party composition is the support character. Certain characters can be support characters, either exclusively or in addition to being available for combat. These characters can improve the resources you gather from gathering spots in dungeons, improve your movement speed, or offer a chance for battlefield boosts. All very helpful in certain circumstances. Then you have the attendant slots, which have one specific use. Sometimes the game requires you to have certain party members along for a story moment. However, maybe you don't want them in your main team fighting the enemies for whatever reason. Well, that's when you put them as an attendant. Attendants do not fight, they're just along for the ride. I think this is a brilliant addition and only wish that they would go further with it, but I'll save my sequel ideas for another video. The dungeons themselves are okay. I think some of them are longer than they needed to be, especially with the intermittent random encounters that always make dungeons feel longer. Several have sorts of puzzles that range from a little tedious to actually fun, along with the expected treasure chests littered around the area. You do have to be careful with these treasure chests though, because you have a limited inventory that grows a little bit towards the end of the game, but it forces you to pick and choose what items you really need for the journey ahead. There are also resources spread around that you can collect that will help when you are upgrading your base. There are two other modes to gameplay that you will encounter throughout the game: Duels and War Mode. Duels occur usually in big story moments when a particular character faces off against another. The main one you saw in the trailers and in this footage is a duel between Noah and Sane. It is very basic though. You choose between attack and counter until you can do a break attack to do significant damage and possibly change up the location of the duel. Pay attention to what your opponent is saying in order to figure out which you should be using, otherwise though it's an even more basic version of rock, paper, scissors, and some of it is complete luck. I was honestly underwhelmed by the actual gameplay, even if the visuals and music were excellent. The War Mode suffers a similar fate, as the feeling of commanding the army from on high is a great concept, and then you play it and the game mode has the depth of a leftover puddle. There is precious little strategy or even variety in your army commanding. It is unfortunate that this is the case again because of how important some of these duels and battles are, so I see them more as cinematic pieces of the puzzle instead of more gameplay. Maybe in the future they can upgrade these and make them work better. Given the huge amount of characters in the cast, you'll have a lot of chances to work on characters' equipment and progression. Perhaps too much time in certain areas. You gotta pick and choose. Each character can have their weapons upgraded at the smithies around the land. You can buy or find armor and accessories to equip as well, and then finally there are the runes. As the characters gain levels, they unlock more rune slots that can be used for elemental magic, special abilities, boost to various stats, and more. Each character has a certain set number of rune slots, so some are going to get a lot of chances to really customize their playstyle, and others not so much. These runes are how you build out characters to help them have a stronger specialization or shore up weaknesses. As I said before, there are so many options because there are so many characters. I did try to rotate a variety of characters in and out of the party so I never had one default group, which I found improved my understanding of the battle system and the various characters. However, that is completely optional. You can find a party that works and just concentrate on them, and that will probably be easier on your in-game wallet in the long run. One of the features I was very excited to give a try in the main game was with your home base and improving and building out your castle. As you're exploring around, you can gather resources and later on send teams out to gather resources for you. You then use those resources along with recruiting certain characters to upgrade and improve the castle and the surrounding town. You don't get to choose where certain things go, but you can make your base a very fun place to be, and that comes with the many mini-games Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes has to offer. In order from my favorite to least favorite mini-games, we have the egg races, the card game, fishing, cooking, and finally Beigoma, which is basically Beyblades. 4 of these mini-games are in some way necessary for recruiting characters. The fishing one is very straightforward, the card game one isn't too intense, but the cooking and Beigoma ones are unfortunately lengthy and annoying. It's really too bad because I think if the mini-games had just remained mini-games and not required to help with getting the golden ending, I'd be a lot happier with them. I still had fun with them, but I never want to touch Beigoma again. Other castle features include the plays you can put on with casting whatever characters you want in whatever role. They are fully voiced, and they are hilarious. And then the hot springs. These are excellent additions and entertaining, as well as giving gameplay boosts in the hot springs case. For this next section, I'm going to start off unusually with the quality of life of Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. Why? Because it's not the game's strong suit. The user experience in general suffers from a lack of updating to certain modern standards. The game feels slow due to a set running speed for moving around that cannot be adjusted, a battle system that has no way to skip animations or speed up battle in general, limited skipping of cutscenes, and only getting fast travel after 10 to 15 hours of gameplay. In some ways, it reminds me of the first Octopath Traveler, which was a fine game that got drastic quality of life features in its sequel to make the whole experience better. I hope 100 Heroes can follow the same trajectory. Now let's talk about the good stuff for presentation with the art and design of the game. I love the way Eiyuden does 2.5D art with lots of detail. No pixel art, which I'm okay with. There are enough other games going that route already. The backgrounds are vibrant, and at one point I got distracted in the dialogue piece because I could see the dynamic light changing around as if there were clouds briefly obscuring the sun in the sky. That's the level of detail I love to see in games like this, and don't even get me started on the character designs. So much variety and personality was included in every single one. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes looks gorgeous, and about the only thing that it could have made it better would be just to add more details to the dungeons or overworld, maybe some landmarks to show off the art, not just for buildings and characters, but I digress. Musically, the game has some top tier tracks, songs that lift the heart and soul and enhance every moment they are in. The one thing that unfortunately holds the soundtrack back is how small it is and the reuse of a lot of songs. The town themes especially could have used more variety to help each location feel distinct from the others. As for voice acting, with an absolutely gigantic cast, I'm impressed by the level of quality. I'm not saying they're all great, but so many are that it's easy to focus on those and not any of the others. There are also a huge number of voice lines to cover the variety of characters you may have in your party at any time. It's seriously amazing. While the music and acting is good, on the sound side of things, one of the most noticeable things about Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes soundscape is the absence of certain sounds. There are no footsteps as you run around the world, no ambient location-dependent noise like water rushing, and even the battle noises are muted. It's one of those things that enhances the environment of a game that you will take notice of only when it is absent. UI-wise, the game has clearly legible text and generally easy to navigate menus. The battle screen is pretty easy to figure out as well. I do question the choice though of having two different menus for map and story summary versus the party and equipment stuff. It just makes finding certain things more tedious when the information you need is in two different locations. The battle screen though is very easy to understand and navigate, so that's a plus. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes presentation is a mixed bag, with some spectacular art, solid music, and robust voice acting. Then on the other hand, the game lacks some quality of life features that slow down the pace of the game, as well as some odd UX choices and the absence of ambient noise. None of it is a deal breaker, but I know plenty of players like myself who see room for improvement. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is an ambitious game with a lot of entertainment value, with a strong cast of characters, a striking visual presentation, solid music and acting, and a battle system with a lot of variety to your party setup. There were areas that the game fell short in, none that made me not want to play the game, but enough that it is important to acknowledge where the game fell short. I do think Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes has a lot to offer RPG fans who enjoy playing with fun characters, are intrigued by the battle system, and willing to deal with some janky elements. If that's you, then I hope you have a good time with Noah and the Alliance. For those who have already played, I hope this video helps put words to some of the thoughts you may have had while playing the game, and let's all hope for a sequel that takes the good and improves on the not so good. Thank you for watching. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed, comment below your thoughts on 100 Heroes or whatever else you may desire, and subscribe to keep up with the channel. I do promise a video on what I would want from a 100 Heroes sequel before the end of the year, so look forward to that. Have a great day, and happy gaming.